Daniel Ward's earliest memory was of a door white, unmarked, quietly breathing like a living thing. He'd been 5 years old, sitting cross-legged on the floor of his mother's apartment in Dayton, staring at the hallway that never felt like it belonged to the same home. The rest of the world seemed to exist in color, but that door remained a flat, hostile shade of winter. It wasn't scary, only wrong. Wrong like a laugh in a hospital room or a scream in a church. He didn't know then that the door wasn't real. Or rather, that it was real only to him. Behind it, 24 voices slept. By the time Daniel turned 26, he'd already been fired from 4 jobs, arrested twice for trespassing in places he had no memory of entering, and had woken up in 5 different cities without knowing how he'd arrived. He chalked up the gaps to stress, to insomnia, to some undefined but manageable madness he could grit his teeth through. The truth arrived on a Wednesday. He was stocking shelves at a discount store when his vision jolted sideways like someone grabbed his skull and twisted. His fingertips went numb, the fluorescent light smeared across the ceiling. And then the world vanished. When he came back, customers were shouting. Glass littered the aisle. The manager had blood on his cheek. And Daniel was holding a box cutter he didn't remember picking up. "That wasn't me," he whispered, but his voice sounded foreign, distant. Later, in a small beige room in the county hospital, a woman with silver-rimmed glasses folded her hands and said, "Daniel, I believe you're losing time because different parts of you take over." "Parts?" he repeated. She nodded. "Identities, alters, 24 of them." He laughed, not out of humor but disbelief. But then she handed him a recorder and pressed play. What came from it was his voice, but not his voice at all accented, older, colder. "The boy can't hold it together. I take control when he's weak." Daniel dropped the recorder, and just like that, the white door in the hallway of his childhood clicked open in the back of his mind. The first few. Jonathan was the one who spoke on the recorder. He called himself the custodian, the one who ran the ship when danger approached. He spoke with clipped precision, as if every syllable had been measured with a micrometer. Ella was soft-spoken, calm, the only person who could coax Daniel into sleep. Riven, age 16, lived in adrenaline and snarled at anyone trying to tame him. There were others, some shy, some furious, some brilliant, some broken. And they lived inside him like tenants in a building with no landlord. The therapist, Dr. Morrow, said, "They formed to protect you from something." But Daniel didn't remember trauma. He remembered loneliness, poverty, occasional cruelty, but nothing large enough to justify the 24 fractured worlds inside him. Until the night his mother called. Her voice trembled. "Danny, your uncle is dying. He wants to see you." The mere mention of the man sent a metallic taste across Daniel's tongue. A heavy thud echoed inside his skull. Someone inside him stirred. Jonathan spoke through his mouth before Daniel could stop him. "We will not go." The call ended with Daniel shaking, sweating, and suddenly aware that there were memories, dark, heavy ones he'd sealed behind the white door for decades. Jonathan had been guarding them. And guards only exist when there's something to hide. The house in the pines 2 weeks later, Daniel woke up on a bus headed south. He didn't remember boarding. Jonathan had let go, and someone else had taken the wheel. A woman sat beside him, a middle-aged stranger in thrift store clothes. Except she wasn't a stranger. "Daniel, sweet boy," she whispered. "I'm Marla. I handle the things you won't look at." She smiled gently, and he felt a calmness he knew he hadn't earned. "You're going to see your uncle," she said, "because the door needs to be opened." He should have panicked, shouted, leaped off the bus. Instead, exhaustion slumped him inward. "Why now?" Marla touched his arm. "Because the boy you were is strong enough now to look." His uncle's house sat crouched between 2 leaning pines, windows yellowed like smokers' teeth. The air smelled of old leaves and gasoline. Daniel's stomach knotted. Inside, his uncle lay in a stained recliner, thin as a cracked twig. His eyes flicked open. "You came," he rasped. Daniel's legs moved of their own accord, disturbed by a faint push, someone inside guiding him forward. "I don't want to be here," Daniel whispered. His uncle's smile was poison. "You never do." Behind Daniel's eyes, the white door shuddered. A memory leaked out. He was 5. There was yelling. The apartment lights flickered. His uncle's shadow fell across the bedroom floor like a hunting animal. Then the memory snapped shut violently, as if someone inside his mind slammed the door. His uncle coughed. "You forgot it all, didn't you? Smart boy. But the pieces always crawl back." Daniel stumbled. The walls pulsed. Riven roared to take control. Ella begged him to breathe. Jonathan shouted orders. Marla hummed a lullaby. 24 minds slammed against each other, a storm begging to break. "I didn't forget," Daniel said, voice trembling. "You buried me." His uncle's grin widened until Daniel's hand closed around the old man's wrist. The uncle gasped. "Daniel, not Daniel," said 24 voices layered into one. The old man's eyes bulged with fear. Jonathan surfaced. "He doesn't get to speak anymore." Marla followed. "He doesn't get to hurt anyone anymore." Riven snarled. "Let me finish it, and then Ella." "No," she whispered gently. "We don't become him." Daniel collapsed to his knees, shaking, throat burning with unscreamed rage. His uncle stared, horrified, realizing that the boy he'd shattered had survived by splitting himself into an army. Daniel didn't kill him. He didn't need to. The old man died that winter of heart failure, alone in the rotting house between the pines. The war inside after that encounter, the inner chaos worsened. Waking hours blurred. Sometimes Daniel opened his eyes in strangers' homes. Sometimes he found notes in handwriting he didn't recognize. Once he discovered he had purchased a train ticket to Chicago. Another altar, a tall, perpetually nervous man named Harold had been trying to run away from the memories returning through the cracks. "Doctor," Morrow warned him, "they're destabilizing. They protected you for years. Now that the central trauma is resurfacing, their roles are shifting." "What does that mean for me?" Daniel asked. She hesitated. "It means they need direction from you. They formed to shield the child you were. But you're an adult now. They don't know what their purpose is anymore." The ground seemed to quake beneath him. "So what do I do?" "Become the leader they've never had." The meeting. The breakthrough came one night when Daniel closed his eyes and walked back to the hallway of his childhood mindscape. The door was still there. This time, instead of fearing it, he touched the cold paint. It swung open. Inside was a dim chamber shaped like a clock face. 24 chairs, some broken, some elegant, some child-sized, formed a circle. Every seat was filled. Jonathan, arms crossed. Marla, patient and gentle. Riven, restless and barefoot. Harold, shivering. Ella, hands folded in her lap, warm as candlelight. And 19 others, artists, fighters, cynics, children, guardians, inventors, ghosts of all the people Daniel had needed to survive. He walked to the center. "I know why you came," he said softly. "And I know you saved me." Riven spat. "Yeah, well, you're welcome." Jonathan cleared his throat. "Gratitude is irrelevant. Efficiency remains the goal." Marla smiled. "We were waiting for you to grow up." Daniel breathed in. "I'm not trying to erase you." 24 heads lifted slightly. "I'm asking you to trust me to live the life we never got to live." A long silence. Then Ella stood and placed her small hand over his heart. "We trust you." One by one, the others nodded, some reluctant, some relieved. Jonathan stepped forward last, his jaw tightened. "Reserve the host," he said. "And you, Daniel Ward, have finally become someone worth serving." For the first time, Daniel didn't feel fragmented. He felt complete. The future integration wasn't immediate. Some days Riven still tried to take over when anger flared. Harold still panicked at loud noises. Jonathan still insisted on controlling schedules. But there was dialogue now, cooperation. a family meeting instead of a mutiny. Daniel began volunteering at a youth center, drawn to kids who felt invisible. The work grounded him. He enrolled in night classes, learned carpentry, found quiet joys in things that once overwhelmed him. The 24 weren't gone, they were finally aligned. On a spring morning, walking beside the river, Daniel whispered, "Thank you. All of you." Ella's voice echoed sweetly in his mind, "We are you." And for the first time since the white door appeared in his childhood, Daniel no longer feared what lay behind it. He opened it freely. Inside was not chaos now, but a cathedral of voices harmonized whole. And Daniel Ward stepped into the sunlight as a man finally living with, not despite every piece of himself.